Hey, what's ready? Welcome back to News Dose, and to open up the week, we have a couple big topics to go over for Xbox. They not only announced a showcase that longtime fans of the brand should be very excited about, but we are now also hearing about a new Xbox Game Pass tier that will shake up the brand quite a bit. And I think if anything else, it's starting to become very obvious that the new Xbox CEO, Ashish Sharma, is trying to add value to the Xbox Game Pass service. First, though, I do want to thank my supporters on Patreon and on YouTube memberships. Thank you just so much for what you do, and you will receive this video through early access. Let's go and get right into things, though, starting off with Super Meat Boy 3D. It is set to release tomorrow on March 31st, but its review embargo just lifted today, and that means that reviews are currently trickling in. Now, we don't have a lot of reviews for the time being, which is why I'm going to go ahead and use OpenCritic in this case, and currently it does have a 79 overall score with 16 total reviews. So honestly, its score could very well move up or down quite a bit, but I do think some of the commonalities between each review paints a realistic picture of what you should expect. And that is that it is basically a very challenging platformer that feels a lot like the original Super Meat Boy, but of course transitioned into a 3D world. Now with that transition, there have been some mixed reactions. Some critics view it as a brilliant evolution with tight level design, whereas others have complained about its controls. And what that tells me is that your enjoyment is likely going to come down to if you like a challenge or not. So more or less, I think that if you like the original game, then yeah, there's probably a pretty good chance that you'll like the sequel as well, because time and time again, critics are describing it as being very similar, but of course with that 3D twist. Now for me personally, that sounds amazing, but again, I like challenging games. Whether you do or not though, that's up to you. Now, we also got an update for Final Fantasy IX Remake. Now, this game leaked out years and years ago as a part of the NVIDIA leak, which ultimately has proven to be one of the biggest and most accurate game leaks of all time. And I point that out because Nate the Hate just claimed that Square Enix, for whatever reason, has put Final Fantasy IX Remake on hold. Now, I've seen a lot of people come at him and say, oh, well, he's just covering for himself because it still hasn't appeared anywhere. But like I just said, this leak originated elsewhere, which has ultimately proven to be very accurate. My question is not to whether this game exists or not, but whether or not it's still in development. So the fact that it's been so long since that leak, I think does lean into what he's saying, that Square Enix, for whatever reason, put it on hold. But I actually view that as good news, and the reason I say that is because last year there was actually some concern that it had been canceled. If Nate is correct about what he's saying, though, then that means that, it hasn't been fully canceled, but rather it may be, facing some kind of issue, which has led them to put it on hold for whatever reason. Maybe they can figure out how to improve it later down the road. Now, maybe that means to just give it to a different studio at some point, but for right now, the current expectation is that it probably won't surface anywhere anytime soon. And I do view that as an unfortunate situation because Final Fantasy IX really is a great game. Now, I'm not exactly sure where I would rank it among the best Final Fantasy games ever. I'd probably put it somewhere within my top 5, but some people, they actually view it as the best entry just period. So again, it really is an amazing game, and I hope it eventually releases because I think a lot more people would see that as well. Oh, and Death Stranding 2 just reached a new milestone with its launch on PC. According to Alinea Analytics, they claimed that the Death Stranding 2 port has boosted the game's life cycle, with the Steam version selling 425,000 copies in its first week. Adding this to the 1.6 million copies sold on PlayStation 5, the game's total volume now sits at over 2 million units. And they also claimed that the PC version, interestingly enough, boosted sales on the PS5 as well, which personally, I think that makes sense. Ultimately, with any kind of new release, there comes added word of mouth, and that does spread platform to platform. So I think that does kind of explain why we are seeing a boost on the PS5 as well. But this news is extra interesting, I think, right now, just considering the recent reports that PlayStation is moving away from PC games. Because this basically says that PC releases, yes, does help both platforms. Now, like I've said in other videos, though, I don't really fault PlayStation for being hesitant when it comes to their PC initiative. They view their console business as the most important thing, and they want to prioritize that. So I think that's perfectly fine in my opinion, but this game definitely shows you how a game can, yes, be boosted by PC if anything else. Now, however, I have seen some varying opinions about Death Stranding 2 selling only 2 million copies so far. Some people are questioning if that's a good thing or not, and I think that's a fair take just because we have seen other AAA games put up even higher numbers, and then their publisher comes out and, they say they're disappointed. I'm looking at you, Square Enix. However, I imagine Death Stranding 2 will sell well over time, kind of similar to the first game, and despite its production value being very high, it is still a niche game at the end of the day when it comes to its gameplay. So I think 2 million makes sense for this game currently, and I'll be interested to see if it can climb even higher over time. All right, now let's just go and get into the Xbox news, though, because we have a couple big stories to talk about, including their big summer showcase, which is officially slated for June 7th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. Now, typically, this is their biggest showcase of the year, and similar to what they've done these past few years, their summer showcase will be a doubleheader. And what that means is that they'll open up with a general showcase that'll likely be around an hour to an hour and a half long. This is where they're going to announce, all of their first-party and third-party games with trailer after trailer after trailer. But then after that, they'll also have another showcase dedicated to one of their first-party games. So if you remember right, back in 2023, they had a Starfield showcase right after their big summer showcase. In 2024, it was Call of Duty. And then last year, it was The Outer Worlds 2. So this is typically slotted for a game that they're expecting to be very good. And this year, it's for Gears of War E-Day. Now, I am a huge Gears of War fan. It is a top 3 franchise for me of all time, which is largely predicated on the original trilogy. I mean, you kind of had to be there, but these games were groundbreaking back during the Xbox 360 era. They had fun stories, they had great characters, the gameplay is still to this day incredibly unique with amazing atmosphere, and they're just very special games. I mean, I can't even tell you how much time my friends and I put into these games, both in terms of their cooperative gameplay and its very unique competitive multiplayer. But what I can without a doubt say is that they are truly special games that have not been replicated anywhere else. The only thing is that I don't think that Gears of War 4 and 5 have been as good as the original trilogy. Now, I still think they're good games in their own right, but Gears E-Day, I think, is a chance for the Coalition to go back to the roots of the Gears franchise. And if you played that first game when it first came out, I'm not talking about the remake, but when it first came out, you know that it had a dark, ominous atmosphere to it. And I think that they could bring that atmosphere back with Gears E-Day. And that's really been a sorely missed component of Gears for a very long time. So I'm incredibly excited to see what they have in store for it, and the fact that they are giving it its own direct, I think, speaks volumes about what they think about it. I mean, they must be confident in their product, and that only makes me more excited. Now, as for their general Xbox showcase, though, it's hard to say what third-party games will show up. There's, all kinds of possibilities. There's Kingdom Hearts, there's this, that, and the other. I've heard some whispers about Persona 6, but whether that's true or not remains to be seen. I mean, I'd like to see some more credible insiders, come out and talk about it before I put too much stock into that rumor. But in terms of their first-party output, Xbox has a lot planned for this year. They have Clockwork Revolution, there's Fable, Halo Campaign Evolved, and there's also a lot of evidence that Spyro 4 might be announced sometime very soon. So their summer showcase could really be the perfect place to reveal a game like that. And I mean, if they do, then fans, including myself, are going to go crazy over that announcement. So I think this could end up being an awesome must-watch showcase for fans. So definitely stay tuned. We are closing in on leak season. I fully expect some big-time leaks here in the next couple of months as we trend towards the gamers' holiday, aka the E3 season. Now, as for this other Xbox story, though, last week we talked about the idea that Ashish Sharma and Netflix have been talking about a bundled service which could offer Xbox Game Pass and Netflix together at a more affordable price. Now, whether that idea comes to fruition, we'll see, but we're already hearing about another idea that Xbox is possibly considering, and that's a brand new tier which, on the surface, appears to only offer first-party games. Now, this was spotted by Redfix on Twitter, who uncovered a mysterious Game Pass tier codenamed Triton. And what's really interesting about this discovery is that the only games that were listed in its update are old first-party games. The list includes Doom Eternal, Doom 64, Dishonored 2, Fable Anniversary, Fallout 4, Fallout 76, Gears 5, Halo 5, Halo Wars 2, Hellblade, Ori and the Blind Forest, Psychonauts, State of Decay 2, The Elder Scrolls Online, and Retro Classics. Now, keep in mind that this likely isn't the full list, but it is interesting that every one of these games are older first-party games, which makes me think that this service might be a cheaper tier that can give gamers quick access to a large portion of their older library. And I think that's a fun idea. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's going to include day one games, or at least on the surface, but this would be a good way of playing a lot of their games without having to pay for each game individually. But let me know what you all think about this. Do you like this idea or not? Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this episode. But until next time, make sure to subscribe, ring that bell, and peace out.